right here. As John mentioned, I represented him in the congressional election contest out of 2006. You probably didn't hear much about it. There were just a handful of stories run. And then the media went into censorship mode. Complete and total blackout. Now, one of the other things the media censors from the public is how our votes are actually counted. Would anybody trust me to count all the votes in secret and just tell you who won?
No!
No, I wouldn't. I would trust nobody, but that's how the votes are counted now. They're counted in secret on computers, and no one even checks to make sure the computer counted the votes accurately. In 2006, we went door to door in a number of precincts, and we got affidavits from voters, and we came up with proof which showed that in John's district and Clint Curtis's district, right here in Florida, at least 14% of the votes cast for John and cast for Clint were not counted for them. Unlike Sarasota, there wasn't a large undervote. So those votes that people cast for John didn't just disappear into an undervote. They were counted for the Republican. And that's because the votes are counted in secret. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has said in 3 separate cases that the right to vote includes not only the right to cast the ballot, but the right to make sure your vote is counted accurately. Once again, when your vote is counted in secret, how can you know it's counted accurately? You just have to have faith in the machines, faith in the people that run them, and they don't even check to make sure the machine counted the votes accurately. That's why the people in Congress don't care what you think. That's why you've got a 1,000-page health reform proposal that basically just is a full revenue producer for the insurance industry, and that's why the single-payer alternative is rarely mentioned. Just think back to last fall. Last fall, all of a sudden they said, hey, we got to bail out all these banks. The people said, no, do not bail out the banks. Okay? 3,000 to 1 calls against bailing out the banks reported on the floor of the House by one of the members of Congress. Okay? The lowest estimate reported was 9 against the bailout for every 1 for the bailout. That's the lowest estimate. 90% against the bailout. Virtually everyone out there did not want to bail out the banks. But what did they do? They passed the legislation anyway, right before the election. Now, why did they think they could get away with that? It's because the votes are counted in secret, folks. They're counted in secret. Less than 25 members, I believe it was 23 incumbents, were defeated in 2008. 23 incumbents in Congress were defeated. Now that's amazing, isn't it? In Florida, in 2008, supposedly 15% of the people that voted for Barack Obama then went and turned around and voted for Republicans for Congress. Now, do you believe that?
No!
Right, that's because the votes are counted in secret. The votes are counted in secret, and when they're counted in secret and no one checks to make sure it's being counted accurately, you don't have a representative democracy anymore. What you have is a manipulated democracy, and you have an illusion of an elected government. So one of the things that any candidate that deserves your support should be talking about is restoring one of our most important rights to control our government, and that is the right to make sure your vote is counted accurately, which, once again, the U.S. Supreme Court has talked about that being part of the right to vote in 3 separate cases. Yet, the media doesn't mention how your votes are counted. The media, and even Organizations which claim to be for election reform do not mention how your votes are counted for the most part. And the few that do mention that they're counted on computers, they don't mention that the U.S. Supreme Court has said in 3 separate cases the right includes not only the cast of ballot, but the right to make sure it's counted accurately. They don't talk about this because they're part of the controlled opposition. Okay, people, you need to talk to your friends, you need to talk to your neighbors, you need to understand that only by restoring our rights to make sure our votes are counted, are we going to ever have any impact on anything they do in Washington, or anything they do in Tallahassee, or even anything they do locally, because there is evidence showing local elections have been rigged, because once again the votes are counted in secret. The other big thing that people don't think about that I want to mention today, and that is another means that we were provided to use to control our government. Because the founders didn't just give us the power to throw bad representatives out of office through elections. I mean, that was one of the means. Okay, another means is the right to bear arms, so we can defend ourselves in case tyrants took over the country. But obviously the founders, they didn't want to just give us a choice between elections and violent revolution. They thought of other things. There was a right to petition for redress of grievances. Now, if you ask, if you do much research on that or anything, ask around, you'll be told that the right to petition for redress of grievances gives you the right to speak out to your government, to complain about problems to your government. But if that's true, why did they say we have freedom of speech? Did they say, you have freedom of speech unless you want to complain to the government, and then we have to give you this petition for redress of grievances for that? No, that's not the case. That's not what the founders meant by the right to petition for redress of grievances. The petition for redress of grievances includes the right to commence civil and criminal actions in court. There's U.S. Supreme Court cases on this, folks. Somehow or other, the media and the monopolistic educational system don't tell you about this right. In fact, if they say anything about the right, they will lie to you about the right. This right was buried during World War II while we were fighting fascism. There was a rule of criminal procedure passed that took away your right to initiate criminal charges by taking evidence of a crime down to the courthouse and saying, I want to speak to the grand jury. That is part of your right to petition for redress of grievances, which has been stolen from you. There's a Supreme Court case where Justice Joseph Bradley said, this right is of inestimable value. And without the right to present evidence of criminal conduct directly to a grand jury of citizens, you are no longer a free man. You have been branded as a slave without this right. This is a serious right, folks. This is why they can count the votes in secret and they can steal votes from John. Because when we complain about it to the appropriate authorities, what do? Nothing.